Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on fighting anti-Semitism through fighting misinformation are Peter Samuelson and Steve Cohen. Peter and Steve are principals, and moderating the discussion will be Len Carter. Peter and Steve are principals of a new not-for-profit organization called People for Peace. And now, Mr. Samuelson, Mr. Cohen, Mr. Carter, and Mr. Davis.
First, I want to say how thrilled and excited I am to have Pete Samuelson and Steve Cohen on, two brilliant guys. In addition to my favorite co-host, Len Carter, as I mentioned a number of times, Len is a genius, joined by these two friends of his that are geniuses. So it should be a really exciting show. Len, like me, graduated at the top of his class at Harvard Business School. I'm ashamed to say that I went to Harvard now because it's getting such a bad reputation in terms of that treatment towards the Jewish students. At one point, 25% some years ago, 25% of the students at Harvard were Jewish. Last year, only 4% were Jewish. So even before this recent disastrous rebellion against the Jews at Harvard and attacks by students and other students, non-Jewish students, we've had a terrible decline in the number of Jews, and we're going to probably have a further decline. But anyway, Len Carter was top of his class at Harvard Business School, just as I was. He then earned a master's degree in engineering at Cornell, one of the great Ivy League schools. And then he went on to have a further advanced degree at another of the leading universities in the United States, Stanford. So he's really great, as you know, if you listened, and I'm delighted to have him as a cohort. And of course, I'm delighted to have you back 6:30, it must be 6:30 Wednesday night, because you are all great. The messages you send me, even the criticisms you send me, are so helpful. I get more education from you than you get from me, even on the Voice of Wisdom. You guys are the voice of real wisdom. So I'll move on. I don't want to take the whole hour with a monologue, but I do want to start because I love you. You're my favorite people in the whole world. And so I want to start off, before we get into the depressing current events issues that we normally discuss. I want to give you what's the right word? Some inspiration, a lift, something that might help you to avoid the depression and increase your happiness. So the first thing I would tell you is, if you can afford it, buy this book. And it's the best deal you'll ever get, because I'm so sure you'll love it and appreciate it that I give you a better deal than any television program you watched they always offer you can keep the bottle, you can keep the book, you can keep the jar, and if you're not happy with it, we'll give you back your purchase price. I'm so sure, and have been through experience and haven't got such great feedback from so many people, including one chief executive, founder of a Fortune 100 company who sends out thousands of gifts each year, tells me this is the most popular gift he's ever given out, because most times he just gets a call, thank you, and rarely ever gets a discussion or an appreciation note during the year. And he says, in this case, people call me up 6 months after, and they realize he was the one that sent it. So with me, you get double your money back. So, and you can keep the book. But anyway, the suggestion I would give you today is, number one, every day of your life, because we all have distractions and depression inducing experience every day. And it's impossible to go through life for any length of time without getting into a mood that will depress you. So the first thing I would urge you to do is to count your blessings. In fact, if you can, write them down. Because if you appreciate the blessings that you have, if your fingers work, if your eyes work, if you can see nature, if you can walk, there was a famous song in the U.S., the best things in life are free. The sun in the morning, the moon at night, the sand on the beach, the waves, whatever. So count your blessings. And then the other thing to do is don't let your problems take over your mind, have your brain focus on the negatives. And don't try to deal with all your problems, even if they're overwhelming, in one day. I remember when I was young, I was very negligent. I had a lot of summonses, traffic violations, and I was so piled up with kids, with tickets, with violations, that I had appointments in court for weeks and weeks. So I was suicidal. So I told my brother-in-law, who was a very bright guy, how bad I'm feeling, how I'm suicidal. So he says, why don't you just start with the first one, take care of the first one, and then two. The minute I started to deal with the issue, I felt better, and then I went through all of them and got over it. So don't try to deal with all your problems today. Deal with what you can handle today, and that's it. And then move on. And things will be better, much better in the future. Just stay upbeat and optimistic, and life will be great for you if you take that attitude. God bless you. And now let me get my phenomenal guests to give you the benefit of their wisdom. So shall we start with Professor Samuelson, and then the owner of the Mets, Steve Cohen? Oh, no. Thankfully, he's not the owner of the Mets. Otherwise, we'd be beating up on him.
Happy to do it. We're here to talk about a 501c3 charity that is called People for Peace. The website is www.people4peace.net, peopleforpeace.net. This is what it is. I wish I could say that it is a happy thing and a glass half full thing, and that we can take Morty's lead in saying that, life is subjective and life is the way that you can apply your optimism to the facts. Unfortunately, I think we're dealing with a situation unprecedented in my whole adult life right now, where the rise of anti-Semitism is a significant threat to the lives and happiness of ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and something has to be done. A group of us, including Steve Cohen and myself, we woke up the morning after October 7 of last year, after the Hamas attack on the kibbutzim and the music festival in the south of Israel, and we saw what they had actually done, and we said, oh my God, Israel will now have to go after Hamas, but how can they do that? Hamas are hiding underneath and behind civilians, and furthermore, the Hamas terrorists have captured, kidnapped, taken back to Gaza, and hidden in the tunnels more than 200 hostages. What on earth is Israel able to do? But for sure, the first responsibility of any country is to protect its citizens, and you cannot have terrorists on your southern border who come in and rape and kill and torture and kidnap. So what will happen now? The anti-Semitism in the United States has been there for hundreds of years, and in Europe it's been there for thousands of years. There's been anti-Semitism as long as there have been Jews. I'm sure there were people who discriminated against Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm sure there were people in the time of Jesus and Mary and Joseph who discriminated against the Jews, and I think anti-Semitism got a big leg up after Jesus was crucified by the Romans, because the Catholic Church ever since has said, well, the Jews are the ones who told Herod and Pontius Pilate that they should crucify Jesus, and that has led to all the way forward through the Spanish Inquisition and the pogroms and the Holocaust, hatred of the Jews. But what we realized, our group, People for Peace, just a few days after this terrible, appalling savagery, barbarity of October the 7th, what we realized is that any sympathy for the state of Israel in its defensive war to go after Hamas, who had done the savagery, any sympathy for Israel lasted, it felt, about 10 minutes. And once Israel started bombing Gaza in an attempt to wipe out Hamas, the terrorists, and their army and their leadership, there were inevitably civilian casualties. Always war is a great tragedy, but because of social media, the sympathy for Israel and its war of defense completely evaporated. And the next thing we knew is that across the United States, across Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Western Europe, and elsewhere, all of a sudden, Hamas were being painted through their PR campaign, helped by TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the other social media. Suddenly, Hamas, a bunch of murderous thugs, were being painted as freedom fighters, and their war, their rocketing campaign against Israel, all of a sudden was a righteous war of liberation. So we decided, well, hang on a minute. What happened to critical thinking here? How can there be young Americans, I would call them useful fools or useful idiots, not the organizers of the encampments, but undereducated young adults in the United States who they think it's cool to wear a keffiyeh and to go and do a sit-in and get to live in a tent for a few days. How can we show them the light? And so what we started out doing is we said we will put together teams of experts. We have psychologists whose area of expertise at Emory University and elsewhere is the study of the science of persuasion. We have PR people whose expertise is in putting the best foot forward on behalf of the State of Israel. We have videographers, we have video editors, and our output thus far is a series of 45 to 60-second videos, the right length to show to Generation Z and to millennials and younger than millennials on social media. I think what we've realized is you can no longer fight a war of defense if there are any civilian casualties, because you will be crucified, nailed to the wall. No one said to Churchill during the carpet bombing of Dresden, you can't do that, you'll kill innocent Germans, because everybody understood that the Allies had to beat the Nazis. And after the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, no one much said, you can't do that because you'll kill innocent Japanese. You have to get rid of the Japanese government, the high command, their militaristic, fascistic danger to the whole freedom of the world. No one said you can't kill civilians. After 9/11, no one said you can't go after Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda because there will be civilian casualties. No, nobody said that. But now the worm has turned, and many people now say you cannot have collateral damage. There may be no civilian casualties. So what we've done in People for Peace, and we can show you an example, we are identifying subsets of young Americans who are entirely wrong, undereducated, misunderstanding of who and what Hamas is, and using Hamas's own body cam video, very carefully edited, horrible enough that you understand how disgusting Hamas is, that these are never people that you will ever be able to negotiate a two-state solution with, and yet watchable enough that you won't run vomiting from the room. We have excellent editorial people and videographers. So one output, we're on our way to 50 of these short-form videos. We can show you some examples. And in addition, we have our team at Emory University and elsewhere who are studying the best verbiage, the best means of persuading anti-Semites to stop being anti-Semitic. According to the ADL, there is a quadrupling of crimes of violence against Jews in the United States. I never thought I would ever wake up one morning recently and neo-Nazis had hung a banner on the bridge down the road from us above the freeway, the San Diego freeway, with the most vile anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic epithet and the URL of a website. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but disgusting. And with stormtroopers, neo-Nazis, dressed all in black with ski masks on, doing stiff arm salutes, 600 yards from our house? How can it be that at Columbia, at Harvard, at UCLA, at other universities, Jewish kids can't wear a Star of David on a necklace around a girl's neck because they get punched in the nose. So something has to be done. It is not a time to be shy. It is not a time to turn the other cheek. I think we have had a tendency since the times of the Cossacks where, the rabbi would say, "Pa, keep quiet. Kinderlochen, don't raise your hand. Don't make the Cossacks notice you. Maybe they'll go away and they'll stop at a different house." That time is over. We will never again go quietly. We have to be as pushy, as loud. Truth is on our side. I think maybe this is the time, if you gentlemen agree, let's just show one of the videos. I can
Yes.
do that if you like.
Yes, please
Please
do.
do.
All
Incidentally,
right.
Professor Samuelson, that was a fantastic introduction and statement of what's going on. Just fantastic. Thank you so much. And God bless you and Steve Cohen for the kind of work you do.
Conflict-related sexual violence, including rape and gang rape, occurred during the 7th of October attacks. And in most of these incidents, victims were first subjected to rape and then killed. At least 2 incidents relate to the rape of women's corpses.
We saw things that were shocking to us. Women that was brutally raped and then killed. The things we saw, we will never forget them.
The evidence of carefully planned rapes come from video footage, photographs, GPS data from mobile phones, and interviews with eyewitnesses, as well as terrorist admissions themselves.
Yep.
So I'm sorry to show you such a downer, but let's remember that what we are attempting to do. There we go. We're back to this. So remember our demographic, the audience that we're making these for. It is not the hardcore terroristic organizers of the encampments at our great universities. It's those that they've hoodwinked and lied to along the lines of Hamas are freedom fighters, Israel is a colonial, fascist, oppressive state. That is all BS. And what we are attempting to do is to use footage from the body cams of the Hamas terrorists from October 7 to demonstrate that the Hamas people can never be negotiated with. These are not someone that you can do a two-state solution with. They have to go away and never be heard from again. In their charter, and we have a number of videos that use pieces of their charter, and we could show one of them in a moment if you want. In their charter, they're very, very clear. One of the things about Hamas is they tell you exactly what their goal is. They want to kill the Jews. They want to eliminate the state of Israel. They want to not stop there. They start there. And they want to rebuild the caliphate, which was the Sharia state, which in the Middle Ages extended from the Middle East all across North Africa and 2/3 of the way up Spain. That is their goal. No Jews alive and a caliphate and Sharia law all the way to Spain and who knows where after that. This is a existential threat to Jews and frankly to anybody who is on the wrong side of Hamas. The new one that we're working on, for example, at the moment, that is almost ready. There is an organization that is called LGBTQI Americans pro-Hamas. They must be raving mad. Do they not realize that under Hamas, both on the West Bank and in Gaza, not to mention in Iran, not to mention under Hezbollah in Lebanon, to be gay is to be burned to death in a cage, is to be thrown off a roof, is to be hanged in the town square. That there would be American gay kids, as just one example, on our university campuses, demonstrating and doing sit-ins and taking over buildings to support Hamas. What the hell is there? Where did their critical thinking? Did they not learn anything in college? Study, look at the history. I mean, honestly, I can get very upset about this because it is stupid as well as evil. The idea that Israel does not have a right to exist in Israel, what are they talking about? They think it started after 1948? What about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? They're in the Quran. When Mary and Joseph took, they trekked up to Bethlehem to be in the census, they were being counted as Jews. That was a very long time ago. When the Jews were chased by Pharaoh's soldiers and they got across the Red Sea, where did they go? Why is Judea called Judea? Why are the Jews called the Jews? It's our ancestral homeland. And sure, you can talk about a two-state solution, but you can't talk about that while Hamas is the government that you would have to be negotiating with, because their goal is to kill the Jews and wipe the state of Israel off the map. Not going to happen. Not going to happen on our watch. Peopleforpeace.net is a charity. We would love to have financial support. If you go to www.peopleforpeace.net, it's right there. You can donate. It's tax deductible. Our goal is to try to persuade these useful idiots who are being misled while wearing keffiyehs and living in tents outside Royce Hall at UCLA, on the Columbia University campus, at USC, right across this country. We have young people being taken by fools for the hardcore of agitators who come in from outside the university to mislead them. We want to use the truth about Hamas. It's not difficult to show the truth because we have their body cam footage. We've just had to edit it carefully so that when you see that they set fire to babies in their cribs, that they hacked people to death with knives, that they raped kids at the music festival for peace, the Nova Festival, we don't actually show, but we show enough. As an example, we have a scene that we got from the Hamas footage where they actually chopped off the head of a father in front of his children. You never see the hoe, the agricultural hoe, connect with the neck, but you see it move and then you cut away from it. So we have filmmakers working as part of our volunteer group, and we understand how you use staccato quick takes, how you blur, how you pixelate, how you use a black rectangle, and how you cut away from stuff at the right moment. And the goal has been, and I think we have found it successfully, how to be scary enough that no human being could watch this and say, oh, it's all lies. It's not lies. It's the Hamas footage. And yet it's not so disgusting that you have to leave the room and go and throw up in the next room. So we are peopleforpeace.net. We would love to have your support. I don't know, Steve, if you want to add something or if we want to show another video.
No,
What
I
would you
think
like?
I think you hit all the appropriate points, Peter. I think I know there were some questions that Len wanted to segue into. I think we should probably do that at this point.
Why
Peter,
don't you go ahead and frame that? And meanwhile, I'll get another video teed up ready, but I won't share it yet. How's that?
And Morty had a question.
Peter, it's so heartbreaking. I can't keep the tears out of my eyes. It's terrible. And I'd feel that way if it were any other human beings. It's not
Yes.
not only the Jews.
Yes.
So the savagery, the barbarism, the evil, the hatred. There's no other animal that behaves this way. They don't kill each other without if they're attacked or if they need food. We're inhuman. It's a bad
Well, I hope we have
humanity. What?
Yeah. I think that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, I think they make mistakes, but I think it is the most moral army in the history of warfare. I think they do their level best not to have collateral damage. And unfortunately, when the enemy, who you have to attack, when they hide behind and under women and children, there are going to be great tragedies among the civilian population. Could they do better? I'm sure they could do better, but I think they are doing their best. And the deck is stacked against Israel and the Jews. I'll give you one example. TikTok, owned by China. TikTok has a double standard. We can't get our video of Hamas atrocities up on TikTok. Every time we put up a video, they take it down. They say it's too awful. And yet, TikTok is covered in video from Hamas and Hamas supporters of the after effects of a bombing in Gaza. Either they should have both or they should have neither. But China should not be allowed to use its algorithm to bend the minds of our young people in America and elsewhere by showing only the tragic video of civilian casualties and deaths in Gaza, but not what Hamas did on October 7. And they won't show the victims. Just this week, Hamas were launching rockets that made it all the way to Tel Aviv from Rafah. Where is that footage on TikTok? Unfortunately, the Chinese believe that they can, and the Russians have the bot army manipulating the social media, and we can't get our stuff onto TikTok. We can get it onto X, and we can get it onto Facebook, and we can get it onto Instagram. TikTok, we put it up, they take it down. Why don't they take down the Hamas footage? An open question. All right, I'll find another.
Peter, you described brilliantly the situation. There's only one thing I disagreed with you on, which is you said today you can't do what the Israelis do. You can't. Others do, and they're not criticized. For example, in the United States, and I think it was justified, we saved a lot of lives, American lives, after the Japanese did that terrible Pearl Harbor attack against us, unprovoked attack. So you said you can't do it anymore, but every other country does it. It's only the Jews that are criticized for doing it. We didn't drop leaflets. It was all civilians that were killed. There was hardly any military in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the Israelis dropped leaflets. They dropped. They put through phone calls. They warned people. No other country in the world does that. And not only that, instead of attacking Rafah, they stopped everything, and they bothered to take 1 million people out of Rafah. Well, Kamala Harris, our vice president, said, "Oh my God, the Israelis got to do something because there's over 1 million Palestinians who incidentally vote overwhelmingly for Hamas and made parties if on October 8th they gave gum and candy to the kids because they were celebrating what Hamas did to the Jews." So
Yeah,
so she said,
it's a problem.
no, but let me finish. She said there's no place for those people to go, no place for those 1 million Palestinians to go. They're at the edge of the border of Egypt. Egypt won't let them in. They could go to Lebanon. They could go to Jordan, which is essentially a Palestinian country. Before '67, they controlled, and the world says we got to get them back to the '67 borders. They had it.
Where is the coverage of the responsibility of the other Muslim states? Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan.
Well, and you know,
who have billions and multiple. Qatar has a small population and enormous wealth, and they use that wealth to provoke these students and to fund.
Well, you if ever there were proof needed that anti-Semitism underlies the hatred of Israel and is just there between the lines, very much visible, it is that it's irrational. Because if Egypt opened its border and put some camps inside Egypt, I'm sure the Israelis would carefully vet the people who were allowed to escape to Egypt to make sure there weren't Hamas fighters there. But I think they would be delighted, But the majority of the population of Jordan is Palestinian.
Yeah, not one Arab country with their wealth and with their massive land ownership control is willing to take in one. As a matter of fact, when in '48, when they first were established, Israel had no government, no army, nothing, and 6 adjacent states attacked them. So those states told the Palestinians, "Leave, will be kill the Jews in no time at all." And
don't worry.
They sent them to Lebanon. They said, "When you come back, you could get back your land, plus the Jewish land." Till this day, the ones that left for Lebanon are in an encampment and won't be integrated or allowed to be part of the Lebanese country. Whereas, since the establishment of Israel by the UN, all those countries around Israel, where Jews were embedded for centuries, Syria, Persia's where the Talmud was written.
Egypt, Tunisia, all those other countries, there are no Jews left there.
Egypt,
they were expelled, and they went mostly to Israel. The other thing,
no, but they spoke out the Jews. Over 1 million Jews were driven out, and Israel, which is a sliver of land, which was a very poor country, now they've built it up with their wisdom, with their genius. Not one country would take them in. And Israel took in 1 million Jews. They took in even blacks, from Ethiopia. They took in 1 million Russians. It's unbelievable, and they won't take one.
Well, and the population of Israel is 10 million, and of those 10 million, 2.1 million right now are Arabs, mostly Muslim. There's also some Druze, but you know, we have video of the head of the emergency room at one of the big Israeli hospitals. She's an Arab woman. She says, I'm a proud Israeli citizen. I have the same rights as others. I would never have had my medical education in any other country in the Middle East. She's running the ER there. So a lot of this is absolute rank nonsense. I'm going to show you another video.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
David, Peter, before it's over, this podcast, I'm going to explain to you that it's our own fault. It's the fault of the Jews. I don't know if you ever know the story of Mark Twain, what he wrote about the Jews. When a lawyer asked him, a Jewish lawyer asked him about economic crash in Italy, and he asked Mark Twain, why are they blaming it on the Jews? There were like 87 Jews in Italy, a very small number, I'm exaggerating. Why are they blaming it on the Jews? And he went on to explain, but I'll tell you, first play this segment,
all right,
please.
Okay, he's back. Okay, here we go. So keep your noise down. Here we go.
On October 7th, they killed your brother. They raped your sister. They burned your father alive. They butchered your friends and executed your best friend. They bragged about their crimes. They are Hamas. Let our people go. Climb out from your terror tunnels and surrender now for peace.
Okay, closing that. We're back. This is serious stuff, and all of us, I think, in an existential crisis, we need to be doing what we know how to do. I'm not going to go and volunteer and fight in the IDF. I'm too old. I'd be no good with a rifle. But I think if young men and young women can risk their lives trying to protect 10 million people in Israel, I think the least we can do in the United States is to try and push back on this lying narrative that somehow Hamas are freedom fighters. They aren't freedom fighters. They're barbarians. They commit atrocities. The terrorists who were captured by the IDF at the music festival and in the kibbutzim, and the ones who got killed during the attack, in their pockets they had written battle orders telling them to commit atrocities, including rape as well as murder, and not to spare women and children and elderly ladies and all the rest of it. Just look at who they've got as hostages. You know that they've got a baby there who's less than a year old, still a hostage. What the heck? These are not human beings, and they are certainly not a government that can be negotiated with. The first obligation of any government is to protect its citizens. You cannot have on your border barbarians whose goal is to kill the lot of you. You have to take them out, and that is what Israel is doing. So we're trying to do our bit. We could use help. Anyone who's watching and listening, if you could support us financially, if you want to attend our meetings, go to www.peopleforpeace, PEOPLE number 4, peace, PEACE.net, peopleforpeace.net. There's a button there that says donate. We would love to have your support. It's tax deductible. We need all the help we can get. We're fighting an uphill battle, but it was ever so for the Jews. We will not go quietly. It is not 1932, 1933. We're not going to say, don't make a fuss. No, we're going to be as big and bold as we know how to be, and we have the technology, we have the resources, and we're going to use them.
You know, interestingly, Hamas takes those same videos and says that's what the IDF is doing to their people. They say they're raping them, they're killing babies, and it's unbelievable how they turn the truth into the biggest distortion of lies.
Morty, Hitler said it's easier to sell a big lie than a little lie. All we can do is to push back. I don't think anyone with a brain in their head can look at this and doubt that it did actually happen. And it's recent. It's October the 7th. And it's their own body cam footage. Do you want me to show one more? I'll get one teed up.
Please.
Last one. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves, and I will get another one teed up.
No, I would just say, Morty, you bring up a good point in the double standard, right? And you don't have to go back to, Hiroshima, right? The reality is that when the U.S. was taking out ISIS in Syria, they had far more civilian casualties than what Israel's doing now in Gaza. And look at it 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago when President Biden said you can't go into Rafah, there's no way you can move 1 million people. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, Israel moved 1 million people. And they said, okay, well, yeah, now we get it.
Since Israel and Netanyahu gets blamed anyway, they should have never stopped. And it's heartless to disregard the hostages, but you can't jeopardize the whole country with losing young, beautiful men and women every day to protect the country, and we can't cater to if we could do it, it's impossible. They won't do it. They say stop the shooting, and we'll give you back 33 people every month or every 2 weeks till we give you back 300 or something, less than 300, and you got to give us 300 killers, people that are serving life sentences for murdering. So there's no.
Who's calling?
Who's that?
And Peter's just going to play the video.
I just want to finish Mark Twain. So you'll see that it's our own fault. This lawyer wrote to Mark Twain, said, how come they're blaming this economic crash on the Jews when there's a handful of Jews in Italy? So Mark Twain wrote back, I'm not paraphrasing, he wrote back, look, the Jews are around the Romans. The Greeks rose to the top and disappeared. The Romans rode to the very top and are no longer relevant, and so on. He goes on to say, and the Jews are more vital, more impressive, in every way. And afterwards, the lawyer asked him, will it ever change, this abuse of the Jews? And Mark Twain said, it'll never change. And the lawyer said, why not? He says, because wherever the Jew goes, he excels and reaches the top. And jealousy and envy will always be just like with Cain and Abel. We suffer from the jealousy and envy. We could end it all, the hatred of Jews, if we would just agree to become homeless and destitute. Nobody would bother us. We're such an infinitesimal part of the world. Out of 7 billion, we're like 15 billion if you include all the assimilated ones, all the intermarried ones. We shouldn't count. And yet this hatred comes from our achievements. 5 out of the top 10 wealthiest Americans are Jewish, all founders of major companies. And it goes down the list. I'm just saying the top 10. 5 out of the top 10. Zuckerman, who founded Meta or Facebook.
Who's calling for?
The 2
right.
Russian young guys who they were at Stanford, started Google. Today, I think it's called Alphabet. Ellison, who owns, what's the name of the company?
Oracle.
Ellison.
Oracle.
Oracle, the number 1 software company. All companies that were founded and played such a major role.
Calling for
in our
genocide.
lives.
Yeah. You're
Yes,
right. When you're
Hamas
right,
is-
you're right.
Hamas is sabotaging your program.
So we can close on the last video. I'll show it in just a moment. But I just want to reiterate, if anyone is sitting at home and is stuck with us and is watching this, if you could please throw a little bit of tax-deductible donation on the website, www.peopleforpeace, PEOPLE, number 4, peace, PEACE.net, peopleforpeace.net. We'd be very grateful. And here's the final video. We're not going to go quietly ever again. We tried that before the Holocaust, and it didn't work. And no more Mr. Nice Guy. We're going to support Israel. We might need to go there. Who on earth knows? And we must keep Israel safe. And we have every right to do that. And Israel has every right to defend itself. And no, Hamas cannot be part of any future political solution because they are horrific barbarians. And that's who they tell you that they are. And their goal is to kill the lot of us. Here you go.
You see
Who's
what
calling for genocide?
But the truth is, the Western world is alive. There's nothing higher nor more glorious than order, law was. And so we say glory to all the martyrs, wherever they may be. The days of just speaking have ended.
Beheadings of Western hostages.
To the members of Congress, letting them know that they will be prosecuted in criminal court.
Appears to be burned to death in a cage.
All over the world!
All right, enough nonsense, Towers.
All over the world!
And one day invade your life.
All over the world!
Who's calling for genocide? Not Israel.
To all my
Who's calling
listeners,
for genocide?
There you go.
to all my listeners, my cohorts on this podcast, I hope that you appreciate the wonderful work, the wonderful, vital work that Professor Peter Samuelson and Steve Cohen are doing, selflessly sacrificing so much of their own time and effort. So please support this wonderful organization. You just got a small sense of what they're doing. It's brilliant, and it's vital and compelling that we support this kind of. It's like so depressing that they spend so much energy and they don't have the kind of budget. Qatar alone sends billions every year to the colleges, to the students. It's hard to compete against that. But anyway,
Yes, it is.
like Peter says, we're very special people. We'll overcome this too. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the program. I love you all. I wish you a wonderful week, a wonderful every day of your life. Each day of your life should be better than the day before. Be happy. Don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry.
Thank you, Morty. Great honor to be on the show. And peopleforpeace.net, find us there. Thank you so much to everybody.
It was
Thank
my
you very
honor
much.
having you and Steve on, and Len Carey, who didn't get a word in edgewise this week. But you are the phenomenal people that make the Jewish people so special. God bless you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.